Okay, this is going to be a quick recap really of the logical forms of arguments. So you've got deductive, inductive and abductive. I'm just going to go through the difference between the three arguments. So deductive, you have premise 1, all men are mortal. Premise 2, Socrates is a man. Therefore that leads to the conclusion Socrates is mortal. And that's a valid argument. Because premise 1 is correct, premise 2 is true, and if premise 1 or 2 is true, then the conclusion must follow. Premise 1, here's another example, all cows are green. Premise 2, Socrates is a cow. Conclusion, therefore Socrates is green. This is also a valid argument, because if premise 1 is true, premise 2 is true, then the conclusion must be valid. So we'll look at the first example. It is a deductively valid sound argument, where the second one is deductively valid, but it's unsound. It's unsound because the premises aren't correct. If the premises were correct, then the conclusion does follow from the premises. We're not learning any new information here. So even though it's a valid argument, we need to make sure that the premises are correct. So inductive arguments. Premise 1, every raven I've seen has been black. Premise 2, there are 10 ravens kept at the Tower of London. Conclusion, therefore is likely that all 10 ravens in the tower are black. Now, you're going from the known to the unknown. I don't know whether the 10 ravens in the tower are black. I'm making an assumption. It is likely. Okay, it is not deductive where it's absolutely 100% certain. There is an element of doubt within all of this. I'm making an assumption that all ravens are going to be black. And so therefore, I am going from the known to the unknown. Okay, so premise 1 is correct, premise 2 is correct, but therefore the conclusion is correct based on the premises, but it's not 100% certain. The difference between deductive and inductive is that deductive, you are 100% certain. Inductive, it is likely, it's probably correct. Okay, unless you had more information to counteract what the conclusion is going to be, this is the likelihood. So you're actually moving from the known to the unknown. You are moving towards new knowledge. By deductive argument, you are not moving towards new knowledge. And then you have abductive. So with the abductive, I'm going to show you the difference with abductive by looking at deduction and induction. So with deduction, you have a reason leads to your observations. So your premises leads to your observations. Induction, you have your premises leads towards your observations. Okay, so in deductive 100%, induction likelihood. Abduction is moving from your observation backwards to the reasoning. So, for example, you may have, if you take Sherlock Holmes, you may have a dead body. That is your observation, and then you work backwards inductively, using inductive premises, inductively, to work out what the reason is for the observations that you have. So whenever you're looking at Sherlock Holmes, instead of saying deduction, dear Watson, it's abduction, dear Watson. You look at the observation and then the likely causes, the likely reasons for the observations that they have. But in this case, the conclusion is never guaranteed. A better explanation is always possible. With the information that I have now, this is the best explanation that we have. Abductions attempt to go from an effect or observation to a possible reason or cause, and abductions rely on our current beliefs concerning the way the world normally operates, the way the world normally works. It is not deductively valid, and by that, what it means, like I say, there is always a better explanation. There could always be a better explanation if we get more information, if we have more knowledge, if we have more premises. It is the likeliest, most probable explanation of what has happened. So that is, very briefly, an explanation of the three main arguments.